tuned in via various media. Let me acknowledge the Honorable Roosevelt Scarrett, the Honorable Cozier Frederick, the Honorable Octavia Alfred, and the Honorable Greta Roberts, as well as the PS in the Office of the Prime Minister, Mrs. Missy Henderson. The Prime Minister will now address you on a number of matters and then take your questions. Prime Minister.
Good morning to the media, and good morning to the general public. Again, thanks for being present at this press conference. I want to thank you for coming. As always, I welcome this opportunity to engage with you, the members of the media and the public, on matters of state, and to take your questions on the issues you deem important. First, I will speak on the passing of our former Speaker, Honorable Alex Boyd Knight, so Speaker Emerita. I wish to take a moment to reflect on the life of Honorable Alex Boyd Knight, who passed away on Tuesday. Alex Boyd Knight was a distinguished Dominican attorney and women and children's rights advocate who served as Speaker of the House of Assembly from 2000 to 2020 when she was named Speaker Emerita. During a long tenure as Speaker of the House of Assembly, she executed her duties with passion and dedication. She was firm and no nonsense, and insisted on upholding strict parliamentary procedures and the rules of the House. Her approach to leadership in the House and as chairman of the Parliamentary Women's Association served as a sound example for women seeking to fill similar leadership roles. Speaker Boyd Knight devoted much of her life's work to the defense of women's rights and the protection of children in our society. She advocated with this government over many years for the strengthening of the laws pertaining to domestic violence, child maintenance, and the status of our children. And I dare say she was very successful in this endeavor. And I'm happy that we were able to bring 5 family protection laws to the Parliament during her lifetime in April 2023. As Prime Minister, I held her in the highest regard personally and professionally. As political leader of the Dominican Labour Party, she was a valued colleague and counselor, not only to the party but to myself as party leader. I treasured her sound advice on political matters, and I'm thankful for her support of me and my colleagues over many years. I extend most heartfelt condolences to her family, her children, and her grandson, Senator Honorable Philip Rolle, who now serves as Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly. As a former Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Alex Boyd Knight will be accorded a state funeral, and I am departing from the norm because of the high regard and her contribution to the country for over 20 years as Speaker of the House of Assembly. The Government of Dominica will provide further details on these arrangements at a subsequent date. May her soul and the souls of all the faithfully departed rest in peace. Now, I want to speak on the matter of the presidency of the Commonwealth of Dominica. The term of the office of the current president, His Excellency Charles Angelo Savarin, is due to expire on October 1, 2023. According to Section 19 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Dominica, the Prime Minister, and the leader of the opposition are required to within 90 days before the term of office of president expires. Consult with a view to agreeing upon a joint qualified nominee as a suitable candidate for election as president. In the event a nominee is agreed upon, the process is straightforward, and the Prime Minister is required to notify the Speaker in writing of a joint nomination. The Speaker must then summon a sitting of the House, at which he must notify the House of the nomination and declare the nominee duly elected without requiring a vote. However, if we are unable to agree on a joint nominee, that is to say the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition, other members of the House of Assembly are permitted to submit nominees for election to the office of President, and an election comprising those nominees will take place. In keeping with these requirements set out in the law, I am pleased to announce that in my capacity as Prime Minister, I have consulted with the leader of the opposition, Honorable Jesper Paul, on my nominee for the office of President of the Commonwealth of Dominica. I wish to inform the country that I have nominated Mrs. Sylvanie Burton as a candidate of the election of President of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Ms. Burton, 58 years old of age, is from Salibia, Carnarvon Territory, and has served as permanent secretary in various ministries since 2014. She was permanent secretary in the Ministries of Community Development, Foreign Affairs, Youth Development and Social Services, and Trade, and is currently the permanent secretary in the Ministry of the Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment, and Constituency Empowerment. Mrs. Burton is a former development officer in the Ministry of Kalinago Affairs and was district development officer for many years. She has been a justice of the peace for 25 years and has served as lay associate in the Roman Catholic Church for over 20 years. She holds a master's degree in project management and a bachelor's degree in rural development. Mrs. Sylvanie Burton is married with 2 children and resides in the Carnarvon Territory, in the Commonwealth of Dominica. So I wish to congratulate Mrs. Burton. First female president and first indigenous president in Dominica, of course. As you know, since 2004, Dominica has, are you saying, Kala, you suspected that nominee?
I bring that before
You bring it before me?
I stood in front of
You stood, as you know, since 2004, Dominica has enjoyed a cordial and mutually beneficial relationship with the People's Republic of China. We have seen the tangible results of this long-standing friendship. I can point to invaluable assistance to advance the agricultural sector, restore key infrastructure after disasters, enhance health facilities, and construct all-important sports infrastructure. In the coming weeks, we will break ground for the construction of the Goodwill Secondary School on September 6th. We will break ground for the construction of the new Goodwill Secondary School, which will be built with funding from China. Contracts have been signed for the construction of the Kalibishi, Sineku, Tetmon, Belvishope, and the Tibo Primary School. Now I am pleased to announce that the People's Republic of China has pledged a further grant of US $20 million to support Dominica. This assistance comes at a time when countries the world over are experiencing unprecedented stresses to their economies. Here in Dominica, we are certainly not immune to external economic shocks and the lingering effects of natural disasters and also COVID-19. We are therefore most grateful for this support from the People's Republic of China. The government of Dominica intends to direct these funds exclusively to the advancement of sports and youth development. In the coming weeks, I will outline a few plans to support youth enterprise and to continue our efforts to advance sports and develop the aptitude of our young people in various disciplines. So the entire US $20 million, which is equivalent to EC $52 million, will go to sports and youth development in Dominica. And this will include, I suspect, the synthetic track in Portsmouth and the indoor sports facility, among other things. I wish to thank Ambassador Lin and the team at the Embassy of the People's Republic of China for their continued support. I look forward to building on our already solid relations with China for the benefit of both of our peoples. I wish to take a moment to comment briefly on the ongoing consultations on electoral reform. I am pleased that the government has created the opportunity for such a wide cross-section of Dominican populace to express their views on the Sir Dennis Byron report. I think it is important to note that the consultations have provided a platform for ordinary Dominican citizens to share their views on this matter of updating and modernizing our electoral processes. We have heard from the same political voices on both sides over many years. I believe the consultations have given us a broader impression of the views of the Dominican people. This, I think, enhances the process and ensures that at the end of the exercise, we will have a full picture of the opinions of the people, allowing us to bring appropriate legislation to Parliament, which truly reflects and captures the desires of the voting population. And in response to some comments which I have heard from certain speakers at the consultation, let me reiterate once again. I, Roosevelt Skerrit, the Prime Minister of Dominica, and the leader of the Dominican Labour Party, want electoral reform. And I want it to happen quickly. So let us not be in any doubt whatsoever on this matter. The government of Dominica is committed to electoral reform and instituting the laws which will continue to facilitate a free and fair process. I think we have demonstrated this commitment in no uncertain terms with the engagement of Sir Dennis Byron to thoroughly review our voting systems and with these ongoing consultations to review his recommendations. I look forward to the completion of this process and the tabling of the relevant legislation in the Parliament for approval. The consultations wind up tomorrow evening with a second session for Dominicans living in the diaspora. And I invite all of you who have not yet done so to access the Zoom link to make your contributions. This evening, the team moves to Salibia in the Canago territory. And we begin at what time? 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock. And it is by sheer coincidence, or the making of Lord's decisions, that we are going to the Canago territory tonight. I do hope that we can focus on the consultation and not on this historic news of the selection of a Kalinago lady who is so qualified to carry the functions of President of Dominica. Let me also urge every one of us who is interested in advancing the issue of electoral reform to also submit your recommendations in writing. In writing. You have been asked to do so. You have had copies of the document since June. Please submit your recommendations in writing. Let me again take this opportunity to thank all those who have facilitated the process, and more importantly, all of you who have participated. we have seen people who have spoken at every one of those venues. And I certainly look forward to their being in the Kalego territory tonight as well. And I may very well share some of my views in the Kalego territory on the electoral reform tonight, as I will attend. I will end here because I know that you may have some eager questions to ask me. And so thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Why are you so eager, John Baptist? Just a note that the email to send those recommendations and comments to is capsec@dominica.gov.dm, cabsec@dominica.gov.dm. Okay, now we will take your questions for the Honorable Prime Minister. Kalai was already on his feet. Let's hear you, Mr. John Baptist.
Okay, this question is coming from a colleague in the region who says that, can you please ask the Prime Minister to confirm that CARICOM leaders will be meeting virtually in Haiti next week and what he expects the outcome to be?
We will meet virtually as CARICOM heads. The main item on the agenda will be Haiti and the situation in Haiti. As you know, the Security Council had mandated the Secretary General of the United Nations certain proposals to the Security Council on what actions need to be taken, what support Haiti needs to restore the security in Haiti and to ensure that the Haitian people can go about their daily lives like every one of us in the region. And so, as you know, CARICOM for some months now appointed an eminent group of people led by the former Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Dr. Kenny Anthony, and includes the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Honorable Bruce Golding, and the former Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Honorable Perry Christie. So these three people formed that group, and they've been engaging a wide cross-section of the Haitian population, representative groups. They've also been having discussions with the UN as well and other stakeholders in the United States and Canada. And so we are looking to further coordinate our efforts because we of the view, and we accept that view and that mandate, that CARICOM is going to have to play a very crucial role in coordinating global efforts towards providing Haiti the support that it needs. And so we'll be meeting to take stock of what has transpired thus far and to receive a report from the group led by Dr. Anthony and to further determine what other actions that the CARICOM would need to take to provide support to Haiti. As you know, there are Kenya has indicated its commitment to providing troops or police officers, and there are a couple of other African countries have indicated that as well. There are some countries within CARICOM who have indicated that they will provide police personnel. We in Dominica are prepared to provide, as we discussed with other international stakeholders, provide some support, especially with regards to translators, as we did before when the earthquake and the hurricanes affected Haiti. There were several police officers who were sent, and some were sent with and others were sent for the translation purposes. So we're prepared to provide the support. So it's ready to get an update where we are, to look at the moving parts, and to determine what additional support we will need to provide to the Haitian people. So this is the main item on the agenda. Of course, the issue of climate change continues to remain fixed on our agenda, and so we look forward to the engagement of CARICOM heads on this issue of Haiti and other issues. For me as chairman of the Conference of Heads, I have indicated very sincerely that the Haitian situation is my #1 priority. We owe it to the Haitian people, and it's important that the entire Caribbean community, not only heads of government, but the entire Caribbean community is engaged and be seized of the issues confronting Haiti, and for us to collectively provide that moral, collective commitment and support to Haiti. And we have to guard against any semblance or any attitudes of Haiti fatigue from various quarters around the world. Of course, we're in touch with members of the Security Council, because at the end of the day, it is the Security Council that's going to make a determination as to what kind of support the United Nations can provide. And many of the countries who want to provide support, but who would want to have a UN security decision, council decision or UN decision, to provide them with the necessary legal cover of being present in Haiti. So we're pushing on this, and we'll certainly, after the conference, we'll be able to provide the public with some of the outcomes of those discussions on Haiti. Sure.
The Prime Minister, good morning to you.
Yes, sir. Morning.
Curtis Matthew from DBS Radio. Just want to go back to the consultation you had with the leader of the opposition on the presidency. You said that you are consulted, but not said whether in fact the opposition leader is supporting your nominee. Can you explain whether in fact she's supporting your nominee for president? And the other question is, having followed the reform consultations, electoral reform consultations around the island, one gets the impression that Dominicans seem divided on what sort of measures that the country should implement going forward. Do you think with that situation you will be ready for Parliament, going to Parliament with these laws, let's say by the start of this year, start of next year, 2024? Thank you very much.
With regards to your first question on my consultation with the leader of the opposition on my nominee for president, obviously I met with her. We have set a tentative date for Parliament to be the 12th of September. So I'm hoping to hear from her before this date, so that the Speaker can be appropriately informed of whether there's a joint nominee or there's not a joint nominee. So I will allow for some time for her to form her position on the government's nominee. And as I've said to her, whether it is yes or it's no, then either one is fine. But it will always be better to get a joint nominee presented. But that will not hold back the process. But certainly, I look forward to hearing from her soon, and very importantly, for her to say, Prime Minister, I agree with your nominee. I'm prepared to sign a joint letter to the Speaker, so that on the 12th we would have declared a president for Dominica to succeed His Excellency Charles Taveras. The issue of the consultation, and there appears to be a division among the Dominican public. Division doesn't mean it's 50-50 or it's 60-40. It can be 99-1 and 95-5. So it's division is relative, and you expect that. So it's not nothing that is not expected. I believe that it's important that those of us who engage in the consultation do so with a profound sense of sincerity, and our sincere desire to really come to some kind of compromise and understanding of what we need to implement insofar as electoral reform is concerned in Dominica. you know, I heard, for example, last night, even if I was not physically present, I do follow. And the only times I've missed it because I was out of the country. I came back last evening, so I couldn't have made it. And I'll be in the Carnegie territory tonight, as I said. The people who are making certain statements, but none of which are, they're saying that people are speaking not in reference to the report, but they themselves are speaking with no reference to the report. You know what I'm saying? There are people who are saying that it is political. I mean, anybody is free to express themselves how they wish. And so even if somebody were to give somebody a note and they said, these are the points we're interested in, I see nothing wrong with that. Because what I've heard, the same people reading, I've heard other people read the same thing, verbatim. And it can't be coincidence that you happen to have the same notes, the same words, the same comma, and the same exclamation mark in the same place. And it wasn't an exam where I would say you copy from the person. It would mean that the person shared with you a document. So that's not that's normal, that's expected, and so forth. There. But people must not keep. If you shift in the goalpost, it must be to arrive at a compromise. So I'll tell you, for example, in my personal view, which I've tried not to share, because anytime I share a personal view, it will always naturally and quite rightly so be construed as the Prime Minister's view or the leader and the leader of the Labour Party's view. So I'll give you a classic example. I was very firm on the issue of a national ID card. Very firm on this, because what they threw in the air. The practicality of what they threw into the air. You understand what I'm saying? And so I am prepared to move away from my firm position a couple of years ago of a national ID card, and today I'm supporting a voter ID card if that's what it is. We have to look at the mechanics of it. Anderson, mechanics of it. And if people are talking about best practices, we have to also look at countries where they require a voter ID card and what other ID cards that you can use. So some will make reference to Antigua because that advances their position. That's fine. But St. Lucia is 30 minutes away from Dominica as well. So look at what happens in St. Lucia. You understand? You go to the Bahamas and you'll see what options in Bahamas in terms of the number of identification cards that you can use or documents that you can use. Do your own research and look at what the state of Florida requires of you as an identification card. And if we're talking about, if we always have the view in the education that we receive, that America is the bastion of democracy. And so if we make in reference to if we're looking at the bastion of democracy and where we can learn from, we should really be looking at the United States. And so go to the state of Florida. Do you understand? I won't tell you what it is. And look at the number of ID cards that you require. Either one. And if you have no photo ID card in your person at a particular time, what are the two documents you could use to vote in the state of Florida? So I'm not opposed. Then there's the issue of campaign financing. I support campaign financing from an aspirational standpoint. Yes, we should have some kind of legislation that deals with it. All I've said in the public domain is that we need to look at what Sir Dennis Byron has suggested. And I believe that what Sir Dennis Byron has suggested, there is an incompleteness of thought, because there are a number of other things that one has to put into place for what Sir Dennis Byron has suggested to make sense. As it is now in Dominica, a political party has no legal personality. The only time a political party comes into play is that on election day, for anybody to use the symbol of Dominica Labour Party, myself as leader must write to the chief election officer, authorizing that person to use our symbol. That's the only consideration. The Constitution doesn't recognize a political party. It recognizes associations. and so forth, in terms of you're free to associate, but it doesn't recognize a political party. Now, when you look at the law that Sir Dennis Barron has suggested, he's suggesting that every political party must have an executive officer, shall have an executive officer. Somebody has to pay that salary. Who's going to pay the salary? Then it says not only after election that you're to submit audited financial statements every year. At the end of April, every year, every political party must submit financial statements. Now, you're going to need to have staff to take proper records. And let me tell you something further, Mr. Matthew. If a party or a candidate hires a bus, because they're suggesting the maximum or the minimum rather you have to request invoices and queries is 500 EC dollars. So if you hire a bus to transport people to a meeting, that bus driver must give you a receipt. He must provide you an invoice, must give a receipt. If a political party or a candidate has a function and you do some catering, some finger foods and some drinks, when you go to any of the supermarkets, you have to now search for the receipt. All of us throw a receipt away, but you have to keep that receipt because it has to form part of the audited statements. So all I'm saying is that what Sir Dennis Barron is suggesting will make it very difficult, if not impossible, for many political parties, and especially independent candidates. And so, from an aspirational standpoint, yes, we should be discussing electoral reform, campaign financing. But you should ask yourself, why is it that in many of the Commonwealth countries and in many countries around the world, you do not have such legislation? Because of the complexity of it and the high technical nature of it. And even the Electoral Commission is going to need to have a serious level of staffing to provide the oversight for this thing if it's going to be implemented. So I don't have the luxury as some people to come and just pontificate. I have to think much more profoundly than most on these matters. Because at the end of the day, it is left to me, unfortunately, as the leader of the House and the chairman of the cabinet to decide to take this into Parliament. And therefore I have to think much more profoundly than many people in the country on this matter. You understand? And that's what we have to preoccupy ourselves with. So we need to set aside the little partisanships that exist and look at this thing more robustly and more sincerely if we're to arrive at some sensible compromise and so on. And the issue of constitutional amendments, I believe that should be for a second round in respect to amendments to the Constitution. Because if we have to go the route of the amendment to the Constitution, even if it allows for a two-thirds majority to allow for the constitutional amendment, and we do have more than two-thirds in the Parliament, on any constitutional amendment, I would not want us to go and just make the amendments like this. We would have to go and engage in consultations as well, and this could take some time. So let us have a second round of those discussions, as we've indicated before, and so forth. So at the end of the day, yes, the Treasury must provide political parties and candidates with some level of funding each year to meet its operational expenses. Because if the Parliament is going to impose upon the political parties that you're placing a limit on your ability to raise funds, and at the same token you're imposing on the parties a burden, then you have to provide them with the support to run their campaigns. In the United States, I mean, a political party is a major institution. I mean, the Republican and Democratic Party, these are major institutions. I mean, this thing, the Democratic Party in the UN and the Republican Party, or the Conservative Party, Labour Party, these are major. You know, in the headquarters. I mean, you see the party headquarters, and in every state they have a presence, and I mean, and they have all of the PACs that can give them monies and that they don't have to account for. And if in the United States, yes, there's legislation, but they themselves have been battling with the legislation itself. That's why they try to improve it or make changes to it. It hasn't worked. Then you have the issue of the Treasury. Does provide the United States for the Treasury to provide financing to political parties. If you choose not to accept the funding, you are free to raise as much money as you want. So this is the kind of engagement I would like to see people having. Not just throwing stuff there and throwing this stuff there. And then we talk about virtual constituencies. The Constitution speaks about a geographical location and boundary. How are you going to define that virtual constituency? Where will be the polling stations? Will they be allowed to come to the vote, or you set up polling station on the absentee voting? Who will be the representative? How will they attend Parliament? Will there be a Zoom link so they can attend Parliament, or will they require to come to Dominica to Parliament? And who's going to pay for the airline tickets in the hotel when they come? So I'm saying that let us not try to put spokes in the wheel and to throw the fundamental aspects of electoral reform off the window. What is it talk about virtual constituencies? And unfortunately, this is coming from lawyers. If you say that, then say, well, you know, the Constitution says this. I know the geographical locations. We have to amend this and this. So I'm saying that there has to be a greater display, in my view, of sincerity. So yeah, I have remained quiet on this matter, and rightly so. I believe if I speak, I can provide guidance to the country on these issues. So I try not to speak for. I don't want the debate to be about me. I want it to be about the Sir Dennis Barron report. But I have taken the time, and I've read every single word in the document presented by Sir Dennis Barron. And I have scribbled notes on the margins, I've underlined stuff, I have inserted stuff, a number of things I have done in the legislation and the report. There's something I don't agree with, and I've said so publicly, and there's some things I agree with, I've said so publicly. It's not my report, it's Sir Dennis Barron's report. He presented it to us because the document bears the name of Sir Dennis Barron. As a matter of fact, I'm sure he would have placed this already on his CV. You see what I'm saying? So it's not my report at all. So this is the kind of discussion that we want to have, and so on and so forth. But in terms of electoral reform, I want this thing so badly. You understand? So badly. But I have no intention or reason to play politics in this. None whatsoever. So that's my précis response to you. We could spend a few hours talking about this item by item, but time doesn't allow me. Yes, ma'am.
Prime Minister, before, just to follow up to this,
Yes.
when will you give an honest, what I say, when would you speak to your views on the consultation?
Well, I've just done some of this. Yeah.
Comprehensive view.
Maybe after the consultation. I said I do not want people to scare it say, or scare it didn't say. I try to avoid this. I let people to freely express their views. You know, I was giving you my personal view on some of the things that Curtis has raised and some of the things I've heard in the consultation. I heard last night people saying it's the Labour Party that do not want consultation. I speak on behalf of the Labour Party. I can tell, and there's one leader in the Labour Party as opposed to other political parties. And I'm the only one who is resident in Dominica as a political party leader. So I'm a virtual leader. You know what I'm saying? But I will tell you, honestly, Matt, that part of the motivation of Mr. Linton and Mr. Edison James on this move to remove overseas voters is really targeting Thompson Fountain, you know. they want to find a way, because Thompson's not moving nowhere. They want to find a way to disqualify Thompson. Let's be honest. Let's be honest, Matt. And I'm sure you agree with me. Because I know when you agree with me. Because we've been around for a long time. You know, we've been around since 1999, Rosie. You know, we used to travel together, all these things. You know what I mean? And Carlisle. So they want to find a way of disqualifying Dr. Thompson Fontaine by removing him on the voters list. If he is not on the voters list, he cannot be the leader of the party. I know that there's pressure on him, and there's a group within the faction within the United West Party that is calling for his resignation because he remains in South Sudan working. And he's been resisting that. I'm going to find a way of removing, disqualifying him. And I'm sure that the whole country knows that. And so forth. So I think that is it. So, but that should not be a consideration. You see, we should look at this thing from a national standpoint and not targeting individuals. But let's focus it on a national stage. What is good for Dominica? You understand? What is good for Dominica? Because everybody's watching us and looking out for the outcome of those consultations. And this is why people are saying that they've never seen that level of consultation in the region. People can come and say what they want. I mean, people even defaming people at these consultations. I mean, making all sorts of baseless, unfounded allegations, but it's okay. Let's go ahead, talk. You understand? Mr. Linton has spoken in the State House. He spoke in Wesley. He spoke at Parish Hall, and he spoke in Marigot. I suspect he might want to come to Kalinago territory. You see what I'm saying? Well, Mr. Linton. Mr. Linton spoke in Marigot last night. Yeah. No, Parish Hall. Mr. Elson James, State House. Wesley, Marigot as well. So, I mean, and these are the two main spokespersons of the United West Party. So, I mean, and they speak, I mean, the fellas talk here. But it's all good. And I believe that the moderator and others should allow him to speak. Everybody should be allowed to speak and to share their views as how they see it. These are their views. I am not necessarily agreeing with them, but these are the views nonetheless, and we respect it. And we respect the views. Not accepting, but we respect the views. And that is what. And therefore, if somebody who appears to be a supporter of the Labour Party is speaking, then we should also respect the person's views, because that person is a Dominican. There's no Dominican who is more important than anyone else. There's no Dominican that is more important than, and there's no Dominican who is more important than me. We're all in this at the same level. All. And we all have a right to speak as freely as we wish, irrespective of your station in life. The point is you're a Dominican. That's the only qualification that's required. I mean, in the consultation of good, I even saw a foreigner there. You know. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Rhonda Luke, I'm representing Dominican today. Prime Minister, you spoke on the relationship with China. At the Caribbean, China's consultation held recently, the Assistant Minister called for Caribbean nations to stamp down against what Japan is doing, the release of the radioactive water into the ocean. They're saying that it will have a negative impact on Caribbean states. As the leader of the country and Dominica being a major island, would you care to comment on such?
Well, yeah, sure. No problem. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I also have a question, Prime Minister. In the United States presently and in the UK, and other parts of the world, there has been a surge in COVID-19 cases. As we understand, there is a new variant. I would like to find out if the government of Dominica is at all concerned about this new variant, and if we're taking any steps presently to ensure that with the festival coming, that this variant does not enter the island. My third question, will be on Dominic. Government of Dominica has the majority shares in Dominic, and we know we heard from Mr. Stam sometime last week that the company is currently having capacity issues and they're having issues with their generation. As a majority shareholder, does the government of Dominica intend to step in and to assist the company? And my final question would be some welcoming news from the U.S. State Department. We heard that they're considering 2 Eastern Caribbean countries to open a U.S. embassy. Antigua and Barbuda has already allocated land. St. Lucia is already taking steps in hopes that they are selected. Any steps the government of Dominica is taking in the event that they are selected?
Thank you for questions. With regards to the dumping of waste in the oceans, we've been engaging the government of Japan on this, as well as other international parties, to get the concrete facts on this. It's been going on for some weeks now, and to get reassurances from the government of Japan on this matter. And so it's an engagement we'll continue to have. We understand the concerns that countries like China have, and we ourselves as ocean people, and our firm commitment to preserving and protecting marine life is something that will be of interest to us. But in these matters, we would prefer have conversations and not to make any prejudicial comment or statement in the public domain on these matters. So we're getting the facts of this matter. We're engaging the government of Japan and other parties in respect to this matter. Okay, the issue of COVID-19, though the WHO declared some months ago that COVID-19 is over and so forth, and the world has basically gone back to its normal behaviors, we in the Ministry of Health in the government have always continued to advise our residents and citizens to continue practicing good hygienic practices, protocols, the washing of hands and sanitizing and respiratory etiquette and so forth. So the epidemiologist is monitoring the situation very closely, I can tell you. He has never stopped. He's always monitoring not only local trends but international trends as well. And it is something that we have to be aware of and mindful of. And we will continue to provide the public with the necessary information and education that we need to ensure that we can stave off this new variant that is being said is in the public domain. But we just have to continue proper hygienic protocols for every kilowatt we use. And so we'll work out the maths with them, but we allow them to have it. I also believe that the board, based on advice I got, the board would have given management the authorization to also order a couple new generators. I believe so. I cross-check my facts, but that's correct, right? So, so that we can address the period between now and the coming on stream of geothermal. Okay, so I believe that Dominic may want to, I'm sure the listening may want to provide the listening public with some of those facts, some of those management facts. What is it doing? So those are saying, well, you have a problem, but I didn't hear the full press briefing. But if they did not give you the part of what they're doing, and they did not tell you that government gave them a generator, and when the generator is going to come into commission, then they need to give that to you, the facts of those matters. I think that would be helpful in giving a complete report on the state of play in respect to that. Okay, but we have given them a generator owned by the state. It's a master generator that can provide all of Rosary lights, and I believe that the board will have given them the authorization to go ahead and order a couple generators. The East Caribbean and the U.S. Embassy, we have had discussions with the U.S. Embassy on this matter and the State Department. There was a lady from the State Department who visited Dominica. At the end of the day, it is a determination for the United States government to make. If they decide Dominica is one of them, we would certainly welcome, as I told them, the presence of the U.S. flag on a building in Dominica. Property owned by the U.S. government, and we're prepared to facilitate them to the fullest extent of the establishment of an embassy of the United States government in Dominica. So we had discussions with them, and I have made that offer to them that we, I will certainly welcome them. We have excellent relationship with the United States, contrary to what some people think. But we have very good relations with the United States, and they've been very helpful to us on the CBI front, on the geothermal front, very, very helpful. Security, very helpful. Overall, it's a very strong relationship with the United States, and I think that perceptions of Washington are much more are different in a positive way now than they have ever been, and we welcome that relationship with the United States. But we are open to host them in Dominica. But ultimately, there's a decision for the State Department to make, and in which island. But whichever island they choose, that will not change the relationship which we have with them.
Similar to how Antigua and St. Lucia, I believe it is, they have acquired land and they have the government identify the land or a specific location as to if in fact we're selected where we'll house the building.
Yeah, but I'm not sure on what basis these governments would have done that. But all I can say to you, is that we have a discussion with the United States. If the discussions are taken to a next stage, then those considerations will come into play. But certainly we are prepared to facilitate the United States to the fullest extent if they decide to locate one of the embassies in Dominica. That's what I can say now. Yes, sir.
Prime Minister, some time ago we were here and we spoke about the issue at the Dominica China Friendship Hospital. Just recently I saw a press release from the Dominica Public Service Union expressing concerns as it relates to contracts with doctors, and that seemed to be an ongoing issue at the hospital. Can you attempt to give us any latest development, because we're hearing a lot about that? The other question I have is that not only me, but a number of persons are concerned that in terms of what the government is offering as it relates to persons passing when you do the GSAT examination, government I think offers for scholarship $1,000 and for bursars I think $500. Now, a lot of persons who would have gotten that, for example, when the NCCU is offering a scholarship, it is much more than what government is offering. That is really mediocrity. Now, from the information that I have, when parliamentarians give help to students, they give them books, they give them clothing, they give them money, they give them everything. It is much more than what the children will have worked hard for. And honestly, this is not fair. What does government intend to do to the persons who would have worked hard, who would have gotten a scholarship? $1,000 is really nothing. A bursar, $500 is nothing, and it is really hard.
Well, I have the dear minister.
You're not saying it's true.
Present. So I will ask her to respond to you.
Good morning, everybody. I suppose as we grow and as we evolve and as we reset, we take everything into consideration. But you didn't say that we also pay the CXC fees for these children at the end of their schooling. We also, even you didn't get a scholarship or a bursary, we also give a $500 transfer fee to help everybody else who pass common entrance. The important thing is that these students are fully ready to begin school. While I understand what you say about what other people give, other people might give a limited 5 students, a limited 8 students, and the most I've heard so far is 20. We're looking at a case where we are like, in some cases, 112 and 90-something on the other side. It's a conversation, and I agree that we will look at under the reset, because we may find ourselves, as of now, we are at 94% literacy rate. We see boys are performing better. We see the improvement in the students' performance. So we might have to review some things under reset, because we may end up in a case where, who knows, in the next 3 years we might have 40% of the students who write common entrance have qualified for scholarships because of the rate at which we are improving. We may find out of the other 60, another 50% has qualified for bursaries. So you may have 90% of the students who have written the grade 6 national assessment have to receive either scholarships or bursaries. So I understand what you are saying, but I understand as we move into resetting and we have to look at implications and we have to look at everything else surrounding, because in addition to what they will get, they continue to get a lot more than they would have gotten before. Before we just give them their $1,000 worth of book, uniform, and so. But we follow them. We follow them all through the system. Where they need transportation, they get. Where they need school feeding, they get. Where they need medical, they get. So we must not look at certain things in isolation. And as I'm saying, you don't take certain decisions haphazardly because you do not know what it will be like. Because more and more, as our students' performance increase, more and more the numbers will increase. And the question is, we might have to completely review how we offer rewards for scholastics performance.
But in addition, Carla, what the minister said, that the scholarship holders, awardees, and the bursars, they also entitled to the $500 school transfer grant. You know what I'm saying? So they get that as well. So, but as I said, sometimes we'll have to review. You know, and I think what the ministry is trying to do is to avoid this regular changing of textbooks, and that is a major burden on parents and so forth. The issue of the hospital and the issues there, the Minister for Health has been dealing with those issues. As a matter of fact, he has been in communication with the General Secretary of the PSU. As of this morning, they had a meeting on both the State College and the Ministry of Health. We recognize that we got information, because remember, the hospital is run now by a board, and this is not taken without informing properly. So we understand that the doctors would have been given a 6 months contract. I think the minister is addressing that. We and I spoke on this earlier this week, and I mandated him to address this. We also are looking at the nurses in particular. And one of the suggestions I made to the minister and the Ministry of Health, and which will take the cabinet, is that, I'm hoping to meet with the Nurses Association and the PSU as well to discuss it to them. So it's not a firm decision. Where the nurses are concerned, I believe that we should remove the option of getting them to make a choice as to whether they remain with the government as an employee of the government or the hospital board, and allow them to remain as government employees, and to have them seconded to the hospital, because nurses are required nationally, and it's important that the nurses are allowed to be. So if we have to transfer a nurse from the hospital to Granby or to Marigot or to Penville, then you don't have the situation where that nurse is no longer an employee of the state. And so we'll be discussing that with them and to see whether it is something that they would agree with, and be accepted to them. But from my personal view, I believe that is something that would be that would remove a lot of uncertainty on the minds and the hearts of the nurses, so that we offer them that option of remaining, not having to make a choice in the next 2 years or next year or so. That's where the anxiety is, and so that's a big chunk of people that you will no longer have in that situation. So that's been addressed. The issue of the State College, I know there's an issue of the State College in the public domain. The board was reappointed by the cabinet yesterday, and I believe that will be written to today of the appointment. The issue of the president, which the staff, the faculty have been raising, the process had started during the life of the previous board. So we had advertised, people applied, there was a short list, but just at the time when they were concluding the process, the board came to an end. Okay, and so the board had to be reappointed. The board has been reappointed. There has always been a president of the State College in place. Dr. Dr. Peters had retired, but during the interim period, the board had engaged him on a month-to-month basis. So there has been a precedent. And so the process of the contractual engagement of a president will be the top priority for the new board. The issue of the repairs to the building, I think, you see, I think if people are going to speak on the matter, I think they need to give the complete picture of the matter, and not give the impression that nothing's happening. You know, say work is going on, but you want to see work done much faster, or you know, and you know, could have done some more. I understand it, but say to the public that we are aware that work is going on. So far, it look good. We would have preferred if it would have been completed by now. And having not completed it by now, we will urge the ministry and the board to advance it. Let's work night and day, weekends, if we have to complete, because that will be helpful for the upcoming semester. There is an ongoing contract of $1 million at the State College. The contractor had an issue of the importation of some tiles and so forth, and I think that has been facilitated with the clearance and so forth. And once that is placed, then the bulk of the work would have been completed at the State College. And so really, some good work has been done by the local contractor. There were some delays for one reason or the other. It's not necessarily a fault of the ministry or a fault of the contractor and so on. But good work has been done. That contractor is a very experienced and qualified and diligent person and so forth, and we appreciate the work that he has done. And so that is going to be done. There are some additional works which will be required at another phase on the building, because we had done it in the first phases. We had done a first phase of maybe close to $3 million, a second phase of $1 million, and another phase, I can't say the amount now, but the tender documents have been worked on, and that process will continue. So, and all of these matters have been communicated to the union rep, the PSU, and so they're fully seized on these matters and so on. And I have and so the issue of the hospital, again, the issue of temporary and short-term contracts have been addressed, and that those contracts will be extended and so forth. And of course, the board has to be reappointed, and hopefully next week in the cabinet, that new board for the Dominica China Friendship Hospital will be appointed. I know there's also a question before I go of your question. Sorry.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sure. Mr. Prime Minister, in recent times, we've heard from opposition, persons in opposition parties, that we have seen 46,615 passports being sold, which means that according to their numbers, some 10.9 billion monies have been received or received, and we only had 2.7 billion deposited in our treasury. Meaning, when you subtract that from 10, I mean there's 7.9 billion unaccounted for. Can you give some full disclosure as to whether these numbers are correct?
Well, Matt, you know, I think maybe that stuff came from Mr. Linton. I heard him last night. I mean, Mr. Linton sat in the Parliament for about 8 years. He was also the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. He had the opportunity to call the Accountant General, the Financial Secretary, the Financial Secretary, Director of Audit, and all to be quizzed and questioned about all of those things. He chose not to do so in any serious way, deliberately, so that he can continue to misrepresent information. You know, you have if you go to the law, on the website, you will see the various classification of applicants and groups of applicants. and the fees for applicants. And you know that you have two routes, two options. You have the fund option and you have the project option. And so the issue of family, you have single applicant, you have main applicant and spouse, you have main applicant, spouse, and one child, you have main applicant, spouse, and 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 dependents. The dependents can be your parents or so forth. And you will see the fee structure. You know, I think Mr. Linton knows that what he's saying is malicious, has no basis in fact, has no basis in truth, and this is what he's been peddling for all of his years. But he sat in the parliament, right? He asked questions, yes, and those responses were given to him factually. And he also could have launched an investigation as public accounts chairman on these matters. Now, so if you see, you may see, for example, 100 applications. But in that 100 applications, you may have 600 people who benefit. But the 600 people are not paying the same fees. Because if you go to the law, you will see the classifications of application groups. And I think what Mr. Linton is doing to the country is bad, is dangerous, and this is why they're where they are now. Because the Dominican public understand, and they will understand, that what he has been doing is malicious towards the country.
Forget Mr. Linton.
Nobody.
I just want to have a conversation.
Nobody. But that's where you got it from.
No, I'm saying,
So I'm telling you.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I'm saying, okay, there has been that allegation out there.
Yeah.
Do we, the country Dominica, do we have any monies on there, like billions of dollars?
No. Monies are collected and transferred to Dominica and used and accounted for. We are one of the few countries in the world who in our estimates account for monies, you know. And this, we first started reporting to Parliament when I became Prime Minister. Prior to me becoming Prime Minister, you'd all be 4.5 years in office. There's no citizen of Dominica can point out to anybody in Dominica what CBI funds were used for. People are talking about CBI funds now in Dominica because they have been able to see the tangible impact of the CBI in Dominica. From schools being built, the whole Maho Primary School is financed by the CBI, for example. Brand new school. The whole reconstruction after Tropical Storm Erica and Maria, financed from the CBI funds. Housing, bridges, hospitals, health centers, now the international airport, the grammar school, all of those things are being financed there by the CBI. When hurricane hit us, salaries of private sector firms were being paid by the CBI. Small business, any small business in Dominica who had gotten a grant, or in some cases loans from the aid bank and from grants from the government, from the CBI funds. Major investments in agriculture. So people are talking about these things, but it's interesting to ask these people who are talking about CBI today, that in the 15 years of David Ginger Charles, may her soul rest in peace, Parliament was not informed of how they were spending the money. As a matter of fact, the only thing we knew about CBI during the 15 years of Mr. Charles was Gracetown and the Layu project. But there are others who received projects there, and some of them never repaid to the government under the Naidocus Party, for example. Nobody knew about CBI. Yeah. Nobody knew about CBI. Mr. James or whoever it is can't tell you how they spent CBI funds between 1995 and 2000. But we raised significant funds back in those days, but nobody could tell you that. There's nothing that's standing in Dominica. 15 years of Ms. Charles, 4.5 years of the Workers' Party. That anybody in Dominica can point and say, CBI did that. We've had CBI since 1989 or thereabout. The only time you've seen tangible things in Dominica, the only time people can account for it in a transparent way, is since I became the Prime Minister of the country. And I took a deliberate decision to let it form part of the revenues of the state. In the revenues, the recurring revenues of the government, and to indicate in the capital expenditure the monies that are coming from CBI to implement various capital projects. There's nothing that beats greater transparency than when you can put something in the public domain for people to have access to it and to ask questions. Go ask questions, go read the estimates, and if you have a question about the estimates, let's talk about the estimates. Projected revenue of a particular year and actual revenue of that particular year. We have projected revenue this year, next year we'll report on actual revenue. So, 4.5 years of the Workers' Party, nothing. Nothing. And this is why I'm saying to us in Dominica, you know about me, because I have less time in the office I hold and in politics in general. Very unlikely I'll be a candidate in the next election. Very unlikely. I'm about 99% sure I won't be. So you know about me. All I'm saying to us in Dominica is that if we lose that opportunity now to build this international airport, it will never build Dominica again. And therefore, you know what me, focus on what is important for this country. Because there's nobody in this country in a history of political leadership in Dominica who has done more for air access in Dominica than myself. When we came into Dominica, we couldn't land the plane at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, especially if we get dark. And now we build an international airport in the most difficult period globally, Dominica included. Yes, I could not build an international airport and address all of the financial challenges of the government. I could pay off all of the monies owed to universities. I could pay off all the monies owed to international organizations. Everybody else. But liken the construction of the airport to you building your home and your motor car there down with missing 2 tires. And you decide to take the bus because the airport is important. And yes, your children tell, but mommy, you're building a house and when we can't buy 2 tires. Yes, you can't buy 2 tires because you decided to use money for the tires to buy your windows for your house. Because long term, the house will be important to you, more important to you as an asset. So liken us constructing the international airport in that way, and the importance for current investments in Dominica and future investments in Dominica. This international airport will help transform the country. People can't get into Dominica. People want to get into Dominica. There are thousands of people out there who want to get into Dominica. Look at Coral Festival. I get the message from all over people. They're in St. Lucia, in Trinidad. People coming. They can't get access to Dominica. People from the United States, Dominicans and friends of Dominica overseas, out of the region. Can't get. American Airlines overbooked every flight. The people who get to the airport with a ticket in hand and can't get on the plane because overbooked. Luckily, we have been able to negotiate with American Airlines to put additional flights during the Coral Festival period. We work in the Caribbean Airlines. Caribbean Airlines put in the flight. Working with Inter-Caribbean and others. But if we had the international airport, it would address a significant, I'm not saying that it would address regional air travel, because regional air travel has a different complexion and different complication. You understand? But this is about our country. And all of this opposition attempt is to seek to undermine the economic opportunities of Dominica. If you want to be a leader, you must not only sit and criticize. What are you offering the young people, Dominica? What are you offering them? What are you offering these people? What are your plans and programs for Dominica? And that is where we have to preoccupy ourselves with as a country. So don't look to me, look to the country. Don't look to me, look to the country. That is where we have to focus ourselves on. Because I may be gone even sooner than people think. so don't look to me, look to the country. Because when I go on, what are you going to talk about?
You're going?
As if Skerrit was there? Oh, we Skerrit, whatever it is? No, focus on Dominica. And that's what I've been doing for the last 23 years of my life. Sacrifices that many Dominicans will not make. That's what I've been doing 23 years of my life, from age 27.
Prime Minister, before you go,
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about the festival? A lot of people are
I'll leave the festival to the Minister of Tourism to address.
a lot of concern there.
Well, this thing always, people always have different views as to which band you should bring, which group you should bring, and people love their music and so forth. So you always have those issues there. But whatever questions you have, I'll rather pose it to DFC and those folks who had the decision to make on that. Okay, Curtis, please.
Yes, final question. Yes, Prime Minister, my question is on lighting for Windsor Park Stadium. A contract was signed by the government and, of course, a contractor a few months ago, $4 million contract signed, and that first phase of that project should have ended last month, July. My research on that project reveals that many workers are claiming they've not been paid, and there seems to be no end in sight in terms of the first phase of the project. Can you explain what have created these setbacks in the lighting for Windsor Park Stadium?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask another question.
Sure, no problem.
Motorists in Dominica were told this week that gas prices at the pump will escalate further by the end of the year. Is the government in a position right now, or maybe later down this year, to at least cushion the impact that these high prices will cause for the motorists? Thank you very much.
Well,
Johnson, come back.
Sure. What time is it now? It's a long press conference. The cushioning of the prices. You see, I love this country very much, and I love the people who live in it even more. We're strange and wonderful people at the same time. I recall when we took a decision not to increase the prices on the request of the suppliers. There are some Dominicans who wanted to protest against me for that, and say you should give the fellows what they want. I mean, otherwise I will not be in long lines. You remember where the long lines, the shortage. Dominicans were saying that I rather pay the price, the market price, than to sit in my vehicle in a long line looking for petroleum products. At the time I was trying to protect the consumers of petroleum products. And people were upset with me. People were cursing me. They don't usually curse me much, but that time they were cursing me a lot. But let me tell you something. Including my supporters, my wonderful supporters. So, the reality is we have to pay what the market is offering. Unless if you're advising me to find revenues otherwise, to pay for the continued cushion, because we pay this. This is what people understand. When the price went up, we were paying a significant amount of money to the importers per gallon for every person in the country who was using. We were giving the importers a check every month, each, based on the consumption of Dominicans. Now that is money I could have used to pay for the students studying overseas. You you see what I have to deal with as Prime Minister. So you have sometimes to be juggling with money. The way that we manage finances is no different from how you manage a Curtis or anybody else in this country, your families. So you have money to pay something comes up, you have to shift it. You understand? And so I am not in a position to say that we're going to be subsidizing the prices. We have to manage our consumption. But the reality is, this is why, we're saying a lot of the prices we're seeing are imported inflation. When the increase is landed here already in Dominica, when it comes, it already has an increase. So, taxes, that's increasing it. And even if you were to remove taxes on these items, history will show us, not only here in Dominica, but the world, that it will not be reflected in the final price. So it's always better for the government to collect the revenues by way of taxes so that it can use to provide you with improved and better services. Because if we in the government were to subsidize, it means therefore we're losing revenue, but our expenditure increases. And where do we make where do you address the shortfall? So I will have to wait and see, but we have students school fees to pay, and we started to pay. I think we're sending $1 million to Grambling to pay for the students. We'll be sending $500,000 to Midwestern. So we're paying down on our debt to the students. We've been in touch with them. The students will be allowed to go to school. Those we have commitments to. And so those things are being dealt with and so forth. So those fees are being paid and so on. That's our commitment to the students. You see, and that's why students have to be a little parents. I understand parents' anxiety. I understand students' anxiety. So sometimes the comments they make, I don't know, they take it personal. I understand somebody's anxious and somebody may say. So all I'm saying is that we have to, if we're people who are going to go in the workplace, we have to display greatest level of self-control and discipline and not go into emotional outbursts. Because the same way you can criticize and not pay, the same way you can post when you graduate and you walk with your high heels and so on, you get your everything, all fees paid, you have no loans to pay, and you can post the same thing. You see what I'm saying? We have to, because you see, at the end of the day, there are people out there who might be waiting for help, but we decided to send a child to school. So we got to appreciate it. But the reality is that we have really opened the doors for thousands of young Dominicans. And this is unprecedented in our history. I am not at liberty to share with you a caution which a former Prime Minister gave me on our investments in education. I may do so with you privately. I don't kind of break that news or something. But it's a lot of money we spend in providing support and facilitation in so many ways that we don't speak about enough. These ministers don't talk enough. I keep telling them they don't talk about those things enough. I guess because maybe we're doing it selflessly, and then we move on to the next issue. But if they had to talk about these things, people will understand even more. There's a lot of things happening. People look at the things that are not happening, and not things that are happening. A lot of things are happening there, and extraordinary commitment to people. Kalai, yes. The Windsor Park, yeah. The Windsor Park, I know that there are some issues on where the Ministry of Sport is concerned. I know they've asked for a report from the contractors. Because of works, the contractor has been paid a substantial part of the contract, and there's some outstanding work, and payments are made commensurate with works done and certificates made, submitted. But I know the Ministry of Sports are engaging the contractor on this, and I'm sure they'll be able to provide you with more details on this. But there's some things I cannot disclose, but there are some concerns I know I've been told by them.
Concerns you mentioned.
Yeah, from the Ministry of Sports, and then they engage in the contractor on that matter. But the Minister of Sports can give you more detail. Between Minister Roberts and Minister George, they can give you more details on that. Okay.
I want to ask
Yes.
to engage the Minister of Education. The 2023-24 school season is about to open. I wanted to find out where are we, how prepared are we in terms of the opening of the new school year? Maybe she could address the opportunity to address that. I will not an opportunity, please. She cannot speak.
I will, and that's all the questions for me. So
No. I mean, if I still have 2 minutes, school.
It is all the questions, Prime Minister?
yeah, and that's Minister. Last question. That's correct.
Yes.
But I want to thank all of you again for
And when, yes.
next time, not now. I'll allow the Minister to respond to your question. I want to thank you again for being there. I truly appreciate your questions, and we look forward to meeting with you in the next couple of weeks. But again, anytime in between you have any pressing questions, especially if you're going to break the news and involving government, let us get word of this so that we can share it with the facts. But I always appreciate your presence here. You provided me something there. You see, Dominic was listening. You see, they listen to my press conference. You know. So they're saying that the generator which the government gave them, which they haven't paid for, but I put it in parentheses. You know, the generator is not in service. Expected commissioning is mid-September. Okay. And yes, the board has approved the purchase of a 2-megawatt generator. And the board has put together a generation issues subcommittee to address the generation issues currently being experienced. So I've been instructed by Carla John Baptist to say to Dominic that they need to hold a press conference too, because there are some important questions that he wishes to ask and so forth. Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning. School will reopen on the 4th and 5th for staff. That is their planning days. And we expect by the 6th, students will come. Normally, the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they are used by many schools for orientation and to get students settled in. So that's what it is. The schools that where you'll see a little slight change in their arrangements. Granby Primary was operating on afternoon shift at Granby Secondary. We have ensured that we have prepared space for them at their school because I think a morning shift would be better for them than an afternoon shift. So even if they work from 9 to 2 in the morning, then work can continue in the afternoon, and all the logistics are in place. We have a last meeting with the parents on Friday afternoon to move in. A lot of cleaning is going on, so the space is prepared and coded off and make it safe for them, because safety first. So Granby Primary will be more comfortable now because they'll be on a morning shift in their own building, and we continue doing the other finishing touches what we have to do in the afternoon. The other school that might have a change is Thibault, because Thibault is the first primary school that and some people call it projects. It's one project with 5 primary school and 1 secondary school. So it's like a package. So each of these schools have their different starting date, but Thibault is the first primary school that will begin, and the arrangements that we are in now is for Thibault to be merged with Viekaz and Baroness Scotland Primary School. We have met with the principals, we have met with the teachers. We have a meeting today with both parents. We cannot do it together because one group of parents is hosts, the other group is guests. The conversation have to be a little different, and we will meet everybody together. Even if these students do not come in by next Wednesday, for sure they will be in by the following Monday for together. This is not new. This is something that we did when we were doing Wharton Waven. They were at another school. When we were doing Dailies, they were at Laplane. And so this is not I think Ben's and another school too. So And they're both small schools. They're both multi-grade schools. But when we join them, we will have monogrades. So that is other than these two schools, other schools will go on as normal. As it pertains to preparation, I understand the parents. Everybody like everything to be spick and spank and hanging up like all in August. But all our social support programs, they are in place and students will be ready. And let me just spend a little time on the books. All the books, people will get their books. Some people have already gotten all their books. And people are asking about primary school books. Primary school books are usually sent to the primary schools in the first week of September, and the students are given their packages. So I want to say to primary school parents, let's go follow what we are accustomed to. I know some people used to get their books during the holidays, but the ministry's procedure, and we have already gotten the primary books from the suppliers. The people in the storeroom, they are packing schools boxes based on the number of students in each class and what teachers will need to use for resources. And normally, since I was a principal, these books come in the first week in September. Because the truth is, no student is going to need any textbook before the middle of September, because you don't start school and say, take out your textbook. You orient students and you review some of what they did previously and you get them ready. So the textbook is not a thing that you need for like the first day or the first week of school. The uniforms, if I had my phone, I would show you my uniforms. We've been distributing uniforms since last Friday. The parents, all that is reset. On the reset, we try to make things easier for our people. That is what we lose sleep over, to make life better for the Dominican people. So instead of people coming into Roseau and waiting by a supplier, what we have done is to go measure the children, prepare the thing, aggregate the data. I need 10 white shirts, send that to the supplier. They pack my things. I go back to my office. I put shoes, pants, shirt, Tom Brown. And I go to Petit Soufriere and I say, Petit Soufriere people, meet me somewhere. And the parents come and they pick up their packages. We know that some students, the sizes that we got in the end of June, some of them might be a little bigger. So we say to parents, it's okay if your child is there, you can open your package, and if you had size 8 and now you need size 10, that's cool. Just bring back the size 8, let me give you a size 10. So that is in place. It have a song that says, Nipanya Inyanki Kupesa. So I think we are pretty ready for school, but having been a past teacher and principal, I can also tell you that no matter how ready you are, sometimes there are just things that can pop up, and I think the Ministry of Education is there to support our principals, and our principals are ready, and if they need us, they know how to find us.
Are you aware, Madam Minister, quickly, that some secondary school students are not able to get books? Bursars and scholars, books are not available as we speak. Are you aware of that?
No.
They need to...
So I can check.
Yes, and it is a fact, because I went across and I only got 2. No, it's true.
How long ago that was? You think?
They gave the date, yes, and then they said they will call us when they are ready. But they
not about when they are ready. They will call you when they get it from the person who's ordering.
Yes.
So So the thing about it is, we work with Mr. J's, and some of the books that we had to order, he orders for us. You know, it is already with the shipping and so. So as soon as the books come, we call parents and we give it to them, which I am sure will not be too long. And this is not the first year that happens. Sometimes that happens.
I just want to make a quick announcement there. Just to remind the parents of the students attending primary and secondary schools in my constituency. And college students of the meeting tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Vehicles Resource Center. Transportation will be provided from Penville, transportation from Thibault, and transportation from Amber to the Resource Center. So all parents of students attending primary and secondary school and college students, 4 p.m. sharp. We'll be talking education only. Thank you. All right, thank you guys.